War gods, Khan thought and cocked an eyebrow. Really? Gods of war? Commander Vo confirmed it without hesitation. The Vulu officer stood motionless, arms behind his back, staring down at the charred skeleton of what had once been a city. His body was sheathed in red armor, scorched and dented from countless engagements. Spiked ridges lined his shoulders and arms, and his helmet, currently clipped to his belt, was a savage thing with angular visors and hydraulic seals. Vo himself looked no less threatening. His skin was the color of absence, a black so deep it devoured light. His eyes glowed crimson, his teeth were jagged, and his long, unruly hair fell across a face carved from instinct and war. But even monsters could be loyal. The priestess was specific, Vo repeated. His voice was gravel in motion. They believe the gods of war will defend them. They believe it so completely it's like physics to them. They're not afraid of us. Khan exhaled through his nose. He resisted the urge to scoff. Like all Vadun, he was tall, statuesque, and disturbingly beautiful. His silver skin glinted under the glow panels, and his golden hair was tied back in a severe knot. The Vadun were bred for clarity of thought and command, leaders by design, administrators by necessity, arrogant by flaw. I'm not sure why you think that's worth worrying about, Khan said, clasping his hands behind his back. This isn't the first civilization to invoke gods before dying. True, Vo admitted, but they mean it. The Nikova don't see us as conquerors. They see us as corpses that haven't noticed yet. Khan tilted his head. That lack of fear will cost them. Vo didn't argue. His posture didn't change, but his fingers twitched near the strap that held his plasma cannon to his back. He was masking his anxiety poorly. Khan noticed. How curious, Khan said after a pause. The Nikova are unafraid. But you are. Vo's lip curled slightly. I am Vulu, he said stiffly. We were engineered without fear. Khan gave him a long look. It's not wise to lie to an overseer. Vo stiffened further, but Khan raised a hand. Relax. You're not the first to forget that your creators gave you fear for a reason. The first Vulu didn't feel it. They didn't last long. Fear makes you careful. It keeps you alive. The supremacy doesn't need dead heroes. Vo's jaw worked silently, but he said nothing. Is there something I need to know? Khan asked again, his voice softening just enough to invite an honest answer. I have nothing to add, Vo replied, eyes locked forward. Khan studied him. Most Vadun considered the Vulu simple-minded enforcers, blunt tools bred for slaughter, but Khan knew better. Vo was one of the sharp ones. He didn't speak often, but when he did, it was because something mattered. He'd risen to command faster than any other of his batch, and not because he killed the most enemies. It was because he thought. That made his silence all the more dangerous. Speak freely, Commander, Khan ordered. That's not a suggestion. It's a direct order. Vo hesitated. We should leave, he said finally. Khan blinked. We just took the planet. We should put the Nikova back, Vo continued, and get out of this sector. Immediately. Khan stared at him. Why would we? Because that city, Vo interrupted, gesturing at the burning skyline, is more advanced than anything we've ever encountered. Tech beyond our comprehension. We don't even know what half of it does. Then why are we setting it on fire? Khan asked, half amused. Because it's more advanced than anything we've ever encountered, Vo repeated, as if the answer were obvious. We want to make sure they don't get to use it. A beat passed. Also, Vo added with a shrug, we like fire. Khan closed his eyes and sighed through his teeth. They don't live in the cities, do they? Vo shook his head. Number they build their own villages. Plumbing, solar power, wood structures. The cities are automated and self-sustaining, but they won't enter them. They treat them like forbidden zones. Why? We don't know, but the villages are their real homes, not the cities. As he spoke, a new volley of plasma struck the city below. Explosions rippled through the urban sprawl, carving great gashes into buildings that had already begun to reconstruct themselves. Khan scowled. Why are we still bombarding it? The structures regenerate, Vo explained. Every few hours. We have to keep hitting them if we want the fire to stick. Fantastic, Khan muttered. He rubbed his temple. What else? Vo's voice darkened. This planet is close to the Avali homeworld, a few hundred light years. They knew it existed. They never came. So the Avali gave us the coordinates, Vo said. Happily, willingly. Khan frowned. The Avali had resisted the supremacy for centuries. They were proud, stubborn, and famously uncooperative. Giving up a planet, especially one this advanced, without a fight was unthinkable. That's suspicious, Khan admitted. It gets worse, Vo said. The monitoring station we encountered, alien, high-tech. It sent us a message before we destroyed it. Khan turned to look at him. I wasn't informed of any transmission, because High Overseer Braden was informed, and he didn't pass it on. Khan's eyes narrowed. Yet you're sharing it now. You told me to speak freely, Vo said. Khan said nothing. The commander had no formal channel to Braden. The only way he would have known about the message is if someone had told him. If soldiers were talking. The message was in our language, Vo continued. It said the planet was off limits, that any species who harmed the Nikova would be destroyed. Khan frowned. By who? Vo looked him in the eye. It said they are under the protection of humanity. Khan's blood ran cold. That's not possible, he said. The translation was exact, Vo said. The message named them specifically. Humanity is a myth, Khan snapped. Every piece of evidence has been disproven. Vo cut him off. The monitoring station added one final line. After the threat. Just 4 words. He paused. Khan didn't breathe. Vo's mouth twisted into something unreadable. Fuck around and find out. The words hit Khan harder than they should have. He stared at the burning city below them, then back at his commander. Everything felt suddenly, terrifyingly real. The city burned beneath them, fire eating through steel and stone. Overseer Khan stood in silence, watching the smoke coil upward. Somewhere beyond the horizon, automated facilities were already rebuilding what the plasma strikes had destroyed. He couldn't stop thinking about what Vo had said. Humanity. A myth, a lie, a story told to frighten children and rebellious colonies. Except the station had spoken their language. It had delivered a threat, and the commander was not the kind of man to fear fairy tales. Khan turned away from the viewport. "Arrange an interrogation. I want to speak to one of the locals." Commander Vo nodded and left without a word. Moments later, Khan was in the observation chamber outside the brig. He watched the prisoner on the monitor. She was Nikova, humanoid. 2 arms, 2 legs, skin pale and smooth, hair dark and long. What stood out were the ears, 2 pairs, one human-like and the other triangular and furred, and the tail covered in the same dark fur, twitching softly behind her. She sat in a plain white dress. Her hands were bound. Despite this, she cradled a silver pendant in both palms, whispering something over and over. Her voice didn't tremble and her gaze was steady. "What is she saying?" Khan asked. "A prayer," Vo replied. "She's invoking her gods of war." Khan rolled his eyes. "Of course she is." When the guards led him and Vo into the room, the prisoner didn't flinch. The guards took up positions at the door, rifles ready. Khan glanced at the bindings and scowled. "Why is this woman still restrained?" he snapped. Vo gave him a surprised look, the kind meant for the show. Khan didn't wait for an answer. "Release her at once." Vo obeyed, stepping forward to unlock the cuffs. The Nikova woman rubbed her wrists but said nothing. She kept her eyes locked on Khan. "Leave us," Khan ordered the guards. When the room was empty, Khan turned to the prisoner and offered a warm, almost apologetic smile. "I'm so sorry for that. May I offer you some refreshment?" The Nikova's expression tightened. Confusion flickered through the anger. I would like some water." Khan nodded at Vo. "Fetch some for the lady." Vo left the room. Khan took the opportunity to sit across from the woman, keeping his posture open, his voice calm. "Let me apologize again. When I asked to speak with you, I didn't anticipate such treatment. The Vulu are loyal, but sometimes they get carried away." "It's not going to work," she said bluntly. Khan blinked. "What isn't?" "Pretending this is all a misunderstanding," she said, folding her arms. "Acting friendly, as if you're interested in diplomacy. I may be primitive, but I'm not stupid. Your kind are slavers. The only reason I'm alive is because you want something." Khan leaned back slightly. "That's very insightful." "I know the pattern," she said. "Interrogation dressed up as civility. It's all the same." "And if I ask you questions," Khan said slowly, "will you answer honestly?" "I have no reason to lie." Khan activated his truth detection implant. It burned cold behind his eyes. The effect was immediate. A sharpened awareness, a faint throbbing in his skull. He listened carefully. Her words were true. "Very well," he said. "Let's begin with your name." "Kira Manura," she said, "High Priestess of the Gods of War." Vo returned with the water. He placed it on the table, then moved to stand silently near the door. Khan steepled his fingers, staring at the pendant around her neck. "Tell me about these gods of war," he said. Kira smiled, but there was no humor in it, only certainty. "So that's what this is about. You're too late, you know. The call's already been sent. There's no stopping them now." Khan's implant said she wasn't lying. "Then it becomes even more important that I understand," Khan said. "Who are they?" What are they to you? For the first time, her gaze softened, but it wasn't submission. It was pity. She looked at Khan the way someone might look at a wounded animal. You really don't know, she said. You poor things. Enlighten me. She glanced at Vo. You may as well sit down. This will take a while. I prefer to stand, Vo said, arms folded. Kira took a sip of water. Then she closed her eyes, breathed in, and began. Long ago, she said, her voice falling into a cadence like storytelling passed down over generations. There were people called humans. They came from a world of death and brought death with them wherever they went. They fought, they killed, they survived, and over time they became something else, something more. They stopped being people and became gods. Gods of war. She looked at Khan and Vo. But they didn't want to be gods of war. They hated what they had become. So they went to the gods of life, the Zunra, begging for help. But the Zunra didn't change them. They studied the humans, then used what they learned to create us, the Nikova, not as equals. As toys, Kira's voice didn't waver. We were made to obey, to worship. We couldn't resist even when they hurt us. The humans found us and demanded the Zunra let us go. The Zunra laughed. That was their mistake. The gods of war destroyed them. Silence filled the room. Kira continued. The humans rescued us. They tried to fix us, tried to undo what the Zunra had done. But they couldn't. The compulsion to serve, it was part of us. So the humans left. They gave us this planet. They gave us cities to care for us while we learned. Then they vanished. They stayed away so we could grow free. And yet you still worship them, Khan said. Yes, she replied, but now it's our choice. What about the cities? Vo asked. Why don't you live in them? They were meant to protect and teach, Kira said, but when we were ready, they cast us out. They won't help us anymore. That's how we know we've grown. Vo nodded once, absorbing that. Khan frowned. And the humans? You say they've come back before. Kira's expression hardened again. Every time someone tried to harm us. We called, and they came. How long? Vo asked. How long after you call? Minutes, she said simply. They've been watching you since you arrived. Khan felt the pressure in his head building. He turned off the implant. Kira had told no lies. I see, he said, rising from his seat. Please excuse me. Vo followed him out. Khan moved to the nearest comm terminal and initiated a high-level channel. This is Overseer Khan of the Bloody Tempest, Priority Violet. I must speak to High Overseer Braden immediately. The delay was brief, but it stretched. Then Braden appeared, scowling. What is it, Khan? I'm busy. This is not a drill, Khan said. We need to return the Nikova immediately. There's a credible threat. Credible? Braden sneered. This about your human nonsense? It's not nonsense. I have testimony, physical evidence. Commander Vo can confirm it. Stop. You think humanity's real? Braden laughed. You think they're watching us right now? Yes. Braden leaned closer to the screen, mock pity in his eyes. You always were unconventional. But this is madness. You're relieved. I'll send a replacement. Wait. Another face appeared. It was not Braden's. It was perfect, sculpted, majestic, alien, a being of awe and power. Khan fell to one knee instantly. "Supreme One," he breathed, "I didn't know you were here." "Spare me," the Supreme said. "Do you have a report?" Khan kept it brief, efficient. He didn't stammer, but it was close. When he finished, the Supreme turned to Braden. "This one is defective," it said. "He will be purged." "Yes, Supreme One," Braden said, bowing. Khan felt the ground fall away. He stared at the floor, numb. Vo appeared beside him, silent. He handed Khan a disruptor. "I will execute you if ordered," Vo said flatly. "But you should know, this wasn't the first time someone's been deemed defective." Khan raised the weapon. His hand trembled. "Not yet," the Supreme said. "We will study him first, then discard him." The gun fell from Khan's grip. Vo caught it. "Take him to confinement," Braden ordered. "He is not to be damaged," Vo saluted. "Yes, High Overseer." He lifted Khan to his feet and locked restraints around his wrists. Khan didn't resist. There was nothing left to resist for. They were halfway to the brig when the ship rocked. Vo tapped his comm. "Report. 3 vessels have appeared next to the Armada. Unknown design. All our ships in orbit have been destroyed. Surface ships too. Weapons and propulsion are offline. The Supreme's vessel?" "Unknown, sir. We don't know where he was." Vo cursed. "Get systems online. I'm securing the prisoner." They reached the brig. The guards were dead. The door to Kira's room was open. Inside, she waited calmly. Beside her stood a man clad in unfamiliar armor, his face hidden, his presence undeniable. A god of war. Vo didn't hesitate. His cannon fired. The shot stopped, hanging in the air, then flowed into the human's hand like molten light. Vo dropped the cannon, drew a blade, lunged. The god caught him mid-strike and punched. Vo crashed into the wall hard enough to bend the bulkhead. He rose, restrained by a halo of light. "Stop that," the god said. "I'm supposed to keep you alive." "Why?" Vo growled. "Because I asked him to," Kira said. "I'm nothing like you," Vo spat. "No," she said softly. "But we know what it's like to be made for someone else's purpose." The god looked at Khan. "You don't have to stay like this," Kira said. "The war gods can help you, like they helped us." "I don't know who I am," Khan whispered. "Then you'll have time to figure it out," the god said. He looked at Vo. "You?" "I serve the Supremes." The god sighed. "As you wish." A single shot. Vo disintegrated. Khan staggered. "Why?" "He made a choice," Kira said. "We respect it." Khan stared at her, hollow. "What about the Supremes?" The god turned. "Number they chose long ago." "And you?" Kira asked him gently. "What will you choose?" Khan couldn't answer. "Not yet." "You'll have time," the god said. He helped Kira from her chair. She smiled. "When this is over, maybe we can have dinner." The god blinked. "Is my suit leaking?" "No," she said. "I just like you." They left. Khan remained behind, alone with the silence. He'd been cast out, labeled defective. But maybe, just maybe, he was finally free. The ship shook again, deep and guttural, the sound of something colossal, shearing reality apart. Khan stumbled as klaxons howled through the corridors. Red emergency lights bathed the hallway in a pulse that mimicked a heartbeat, fast and panicked. Commander Vo's arm held him steady. The restraints on Khan's wrists bit into his skin. He felt hollow, drained, like someone had scooped out the core of his being and left nothing but the shell. The Supreme had called him defective, a thing to be studied, a failed design. He couldn't argue. It felt true. But the warships were gone. The Supreme might already be dead. And the war gods had arrived. A voice crackled through Vo's calm. "Commander, all vessels in orbit and on the ground have been disabled or destroyed. Systems are offline. We are blind, deaf, and paralyzed." Vo answered with silence. "Report on the Supreme?" the voice asked. "We don't know what ship he was on," came the reply. Vo's jaw tightened. "Find out." Then he turned and marched Khan the last few steps to the brig. The door hung open. The guards were dead, ripped apart before they could draw weapons. Energy scoring marked the walls, but not from any technology the Supremacy understood. Vo tensed. Inside, Kira sat calmly at the table where they'd left her. She looked serene, peaceful even. A man stood beside her. He wore armor unlike anything Khan had ever seen, smooth, seamless, dark as midnight between stars, not red like Vo's, not gold like the Supreme's. Pure utility, a predator's armor, a weapon's skin. The man's face was hidden behind a matte black helm, and yet somehow Khan could feel him watching. He knew what this was. A human. Real. Not myth. Not legend. Flesh. A god of war. Vo didn't hesitate. His cannon screamed, unleashing a storm of energy powerful enough to vaporize a tank. The blast hit the man's outstretched hand and stopped. It didn't explode, it didn't scatter. It flowed into the man's palm like liquid fire and vanished. Vo's gun clattered to the floor. He drew a blade, roared, and charged. The god caught his wrist and hit him in the chest with a single effortless punch. Vo flew backward, slammed into the bulkhead hard enough to leave a dent, and dropped. He rose fast, blood in his teeth, but shimmering light lanced from the god's hand and froze him mid-step, held in the air like a painting of defiance. "Enough," the god said, his voice quiet but final. "I'm supposed to keep you alive. Don't make me regret that." "Why?" Vo hissed through clenched teeth. "Why keep us alive?" "Because I asked him to," Kira said softly. She rose and walked to Vo. She looked at the commander with genuine sympathy. "Because you're like us." "I am nothing like you," Vo growled. "You were made to serve someone else," she said. "So were we. I am proud of what I am." "I know," Kira replied. "That's what makes this hard." She stepped back. Vo stared straight ahead, breathing hard, the light binding him like chains of conscience. Khan spoke barely more than a whisper. "What about me?" The god looked at him. "You're not like the others." "I am. I served them." The god shook his head. "You asked questions. You listened. That's more than most of your kind ever do." "I'm defective," Khan said. "They said so." "You're not defective," Kira corrected. "You're waking up." Khan's voice cracked. "I don't know what to do." "You'll have time to decide," the god said. Kira turned to him, her voice gentler now. You can come with us. Learn, heal, be more than what they made you to be. Khan looked down at his hands, still bound. His whole life he'd followed orders. He'd served without question, believed without doubt. And what had it earned him? Condemnation, a death sentence, from his creators, his gods. But not from them. The war gods had judged his masters, not with doctrine, with action. He looked up. And the Supremes? The gods' tone hardened. They don't get a choice. My boot in their necks have a rendezvous. Khan felt something break inside him, something heavy, something old, and in its place a strange, fragile flicker of relief. The Supremes would fall. Maybe they should. He looked to Vo. The commander's eyes blazed, every muscle in his body clenched in resistance. You still have time, Kira said to him. Come with us. Live free. I serve the Supremes, Vo spat. Until death. The god sighed. As you wish. He raised his hand and Vo disintegrated. There was no scream, no explosion. Just a moment where Vo was a man, and the next, a memory. Ash on the air, smoke in the silence. Khan dropped to his knees. Why did you do that? He asked. Because he chose, Kira answered. He was my... Khan choked on the word. He was my friend. He deserved to choose, said the god. He did. Khan wanted to scream, to cry, but he had no tears, only a weight in his chest like a sun collapsing. The god knelt beside him, severed his bindings with a flick of energy. You're free now, he said. Khan didn't move. What if I don't know how to be free? Then we'll teach you, Kira said, the same way they taught us. She held out her hand. He looked at it, wide-eyed. Behind them, the ship groaned again. Another blast rocked the hull. Khan didn't flinch. He took her hand. She helped him to his feet. The god opened the door. We're leaving, the human said. You can follow, or stay. They stepped into the corridor. Kira walked beside the war god, their pace easy, unhurried. She smiled at him. You know, I never did thank you. For what? For answering the call. He chuckled awkwardly. I was in the area. My house burned down, she said. But once this is over, I think we should have dinner. The god paused mid-step. Is my armor leaking something weird? No, she said, laughing softly. I just like you. Khan watched them go, the god and the priestess, disappearing into the red glow of the emergency lights. He stood alone. The Supremes had cast him out, but they had never seen what he just had. The gods were real, and they had returned. He thought of his kind, still clinging to their delusions, still worshipping those who used them. He thought of the Nikova, engineered like him, but growing, choosing, living. He whispered into the empty air to no one and to himself. I am not defective. He was a person, and his story wasn't over yet.